The Honourable Member for Douglas East, Ms Faragher.
Lorda. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Arbury, Castletown and Maloo, Mr Glover, for bringing this motion. I don't think this has been an easy thing to do, nor do I believe this was put forward as a headline grabber or an attempt to make a grand but empty gesture. I give all honourable colleagues more credit and respect than that.
Yeah.
I do truly believe that everyone here is acting in what they consider to be the best interests of the island, even if we do differ on how those interests can be realised. Honourable members may recall that my vote wasn't cast for my honourable colleague Mr Cannon as Chief Minister at the start of this administration, and may recall further that I was one of the 3 people who didn't vote this way in the second confirmatory vote. It's no secret that our politics do not align. However, I have endeavoured to work within this administration as effectively as I could. That is my duty and my responsibility to my constituents and more broadly to the people of this island. Had this motion been brought even a couple of months ago, I would have been unlikely to consider it. I really do feel we all have to weigh up the instability and wasted time for the administration of changing Chief Ministers and how the damage that would cause compares with the perceived damage of continuing with the status quo. Some honourable members have made comment on this, questioning what will happen after if the motion is successful. This isn't exactly without precedent, Lorda. It's not as if a vote of no confidence has never been made anywhere in the world before. Indeed, we all know that it's happened quite close to home and within this administration. The world didn't fall apart by any means. So I really don't think that these fire and brimstone predictions about chaos and the sky falling in are necessarily correct. However, it is true that for me, the potential instability of a successful vote of no confidence weighs heavily, and it would take a lot to tip the scales. Despite this, I have genuine and serious concerns about the future of our health services, and specifically that the free at the point of use is in jeopardy. This is one of the issues that precipitated the motion in front of us today, and it's a political red line for me. That the Council of Ministers were unable to commit to its future last month gives cause for concern, as does the response given to my question in Tynwald Court 2 weeks ago, in which the Chief Minister would not commit to protecting the free at the point of use model and stated that all options should be on the table. As a departmental member for the DHSC up until 2 weeks ago, I've been very worried behind the scenes as we have considered the contingency lists that Manx Care have been forced to work up in order to comply with budgetary constraints. I was conflicted within my position within DHSC for a while, in all honesty, because it's a fundamental part of the DHSC political team to ensure that Manx Care stay within their funding envelope. However, to perform that role effectively, you must agree with that funding envelope. Manx Care's financial forecast told us that they needed an amount to continue running all services, but they were not allocated that amount. This deficit has been widely discussed over the course of this administration in so many forums. The shortfall for health and social care predates this administration, predates Manx Care even. This is something we have ignored for far too long, and there is no credible way anyone here today can say they were not aware of the budgetary shortfall with regard to health and social care. But to return to those discussions within DHSC around what services would need to be cut in order to stay within the budget, I repeatedly expressed that such a fundamental conversation should be public. The contingency lists were drawn up because of the instruction from the Council of Ministers that further money could not be allocated. Both Treasury and the Council of Ministers were clear of the necessity to stay within budget regardless of demands on the service, regardless of the impact upon patients. I was deeply uncomfortable with looking at these cuts to services behind closed doors. The unwillingness to involve the public in these discussions seemed wrong to me. This is so important. Bringing this matter out into the public is so important. After all, this is our health service. It's a public service. It's a service that the vast majority of our constituents feel is one of the top priorities. Why are we looking at cuts and charges without checking that this is what our constituents want? Nobody stood on a platform of cutting healthcare services or introducing charges within healthcare, and I think we all know that it would have been unpopular to do so. Also, of course, I am politically opposed to cuts to health services and to charges being introduced. And yes, to acknowledge some of the recent dialogue from people in this honourable place, that is ideology, as is looking to introduce charges, as is choosing to cut services. The vast majority of what we do as politicians is ideological. And my political ideology is that we should serve the majority of islanders, and that to do so we need a fully funded health and social care service that is free at the point of use. Equally, as I referenced earlier, I did not give my vote to Mr Cannon as Chief Minister because our politics are not aligned, and that remains the case. If this was a straight vote for Mr Cannon as Chief Minister, it would be easy to decide how to vote. But for me, the issue of the future of our health services is the backdrop for this debate today. So I am considering supporting this motion, but I do so with politics in mind rather than personality, and I do so with some regret, and I do so in the knowledge that many of the issues faced by this administration are global issues. Changing the Chief Minister won't be a panacea that solves all our problems. Regardless of political differences, Mr Cannon's hard work and dedication within the role isn't under question for me. There's no easy answer to many of the issues facing us, including the healthcare budgetary deficit. But it's imperative that we involve the public, that we are acting in line with the interests of the majority, and that we bring people along with us. Laura, the statements made today by ministers that they will resign are indeed very concerning and have given me pause for thought. I have a lot of respect for and confidence in these ministers, and these statements leave me feeling very conflicted and uncomfortable. My final comment would be, regardless of the outcome of the motion today, I urge the Chief Minister to reflect upon the approach with regards to key issues and to move towards a more collaborative and open door style in future.